something I appreciate about this film, as somebody from a cultural studies background as well as a film background, is just the intersectionality of everything. Not only the fact that this is a film about a black artist, but a black woman artist, and not just a black woman artist, but a trans black woman artist, and all this coming together, and the fact that she achieved the level of success that she did, again, almost getting to number one in the charts uh, in the 1960s, being a black trans woman, which is a very difficult thing even in today's society. Doing that in the 60s,
Yeah,
I mean that's just a tremendous achievement.
yeah,
And again, me never hearing that story as somebody who likes a lot of R&B stuff, it was fascinating to learn, that there was this kind of hidden history that just isn't talked about all that much. And I was wondering if you could speak on that a little bit.
oh God,
Why isn't Jackie Shane more known? At least not until like the re-release of her album and now the release of your documentary.
yeah. I mean, I'm so grateful that Jackie told me her story and that we and a huge team of people were able to get this story made and told and out there. But I'm also left feeling kind of pretty horrified of the stories that are out there that are going untold. And I remember when we went to Nashville and were talking with a bunch of musicians and people that were on Jefferson Street at the time Jackie was coming up, and sort of, Luca, my co-director, and I, who is a black trans person, and we kind of were like, it felt naive in retrospect, kind of going down and saying, like, what must it have been like for Jackie Shane in Jim Crow time
Yeah.
to be an openly queer person on the streets of Nashville? And kind of saying what she must have been the only openly queer black person in Nashville. And these musicians and the people that were on the streets were like, oh no, there was so and so and so and so and so and so. And in one interview, somebody said four different names and of queer trans artists that were kicking ass on Jefferson Street. Like people lined up around the block because they were just such great entertainers, such great
Awesome.
musicians. And I went home that night after shooting and looked them all up, and there was enough to see that they existed, but there wasn't enough to their stories weren't recorded and they were long gone. Like we need to record these
Yeah.
stories. And then, it is such a complex thing. The fact that Jackie's family hadn't heard of Jackie because of prejudices and fears at the time that they didn't, her relations that were her age didn't talk about Jackie, like that family erasure was incredible. And then, Jackie, I mean, it's the intersectionality, and as you say, like, to be in the music business is hard and make you want to stop and leave, and to be a woman in the music business is hard. To be a black person in the music business at that time was hard. To be a
Yes.
black trans woman, and so, and Jackie, with her integrity, with saying, "I'm going to do it my way," Jackie actively chose not to play certain stages. Jackie actively chose, in order to be able to be true to herself, to, to be true to herself, which she did 100% right up until the end. But that also meant that Jackie went and was a recluse, and didn't, which obviously I admire in some ways, but like, imagine had she been able to be out here entertaining, creating music, connecting with people, like so it is a
Absolutely.
complicated thing, but and I'm so glad her story's getting told now, but like, oof, it's scary to me because
Mhm.
stories have been lost. I mean, Jackie's story is great and unique, but like, there's got to be other stories that would be equally as moving or powerful or important in their they're gone. And if they're there, this was a very hard film to finance,
Mhm.
And yet we had all of these recordings. We had our approach to bringing these recordings to life. Jackie was nominated for a Grammy. She was on the cover of New York Times Art Set. Like she was a known entity, and but she was a black trans woman, and it was still very, very hard. People saw this
Yeah.
as a niche film, which so yeah,
Yeah. Again, talking about all the stuff you had to go through, I was impressed by the archival research that you also did, and I would guess most of the archive came from Jackie Shane's personal like collection of stuff. But you know, how how much time did it take to go through everything and especially to connect all the dots, as you were saying, and put this story together beyond just the interviews with Jackie Shane, because you had to go through all the video of Night Train, for example. You had to go through all the albums. You had to go through newspaper stories and all these other things.
yeah.
How did that all work out?
Well, first, I mean, I cannot tell you how at every step of the way, Jackie was working the strings. Jackie, um, um, what she left and how she left it in her home when she passed away, when the family went in there, she was an incredibly well organized, I won't say hoarder, but archivist herself. Like she kept everything. She kept all her stage outfits. She kept all the jewelry that she made. She kept a handwritten autobiography. She kept these albums. She kept thousands or hundreds and hundreds of 45s. And so it was all there for us. And our archive producer Emma was absolutely extraordinary, and she came to what you're seeing in the film of the family opening up this storage unit and bringing out Jackie's archive was real and in real time. And so we went down with our archive producer and with Rob Bowman, a musical anthropologist, and so we're cataloging it and connecting dots and reading autobiographies, kind of in real time. So Jackie left us so many gifts. And yeah, Luca and I and my editor Mike Munn spent just, over a year going through these photos and organizing these photos and all of the transcripts of Jackie. But yeah, our archive producer was extraordinary, both of making sense and making accessible to us what Jackie left us. And then our co-producers, the National Film Board of Canada, have been around for 80 years. They've won umpteen Academy Awards, and mostly in the documentary and animation world. And so we had access to their archives, which we used both as sort of, if you're going into Montreal or Toronto or whatever, the to create that world was a lot of those archives. And then we could also use their archives and our animators would paint over it. So there was that. And I knew even from when I was talking with Jackie that because there was so little footage of her, just the one piece of footage playing live, that I wanted to use rotoscope animation to bring this other stuff to life.
I was
Then
going
when
to ask you about that
we,
next.
oh yeah, I guess then we'll talk about that next. But it did go from at the beginning and when Jackie passed away, kind of saying, how do we make a film about somebody who's passed away and we hadn't seen the archive yet? Like, how do we do this? To after finding the archive and everything, and all these photos, to like, oh my God, how do we do this? Like, there's so much of it.
Mhm.
But it was a lot of people, a lot of minds, a lot of organizing, and just going through it again and again and again. And, so a lot of work, but again, geez, heck of a job.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And those rotoscope sequences, as you were mentioning, are really great. Like, I mean, considering we do only have the one, set of footage of Jackie Shane, having those rotoscope sequences really helps tell the story and move it along in a very visually interesting way. At first I was just like, they just get footage of Jackie Shane and like are animating over it for the look.
Right.
But then as I'm watching the film, realizing no, just they have the recordings, of this live performance. They don't have any of the video, so they have to recreate. That's really a really interesting way to kind of recreate and retell this again. This thing that otherwise how else are you going to tell that portion of the story?
Yeah.
Um, how'd you end up going through and getting the rotoscoping done? Like, who did it, and like, all that.
Yeah, it's rotoscope. I've been one of my executive producers on Guy Terrifico did Richard Linklater's first rotoscope film, and so 20 plus years ago, I'd seen this and was
That was
obsessed.
a Waking Life, right?
Exactly right. Yes, which you know, I kind of you can do that. Like it's and it is so human, and then it's this amplified thing, and the people that saw Jackie perform talked about it as this electrifying, this very intimate thing, this extraordinary thing. And had we had archive film of that, these are like low ceilinged, joints and poorly lit. Like, I don't think an archive recording might have necessarily expressed what people um, felt when they saw this.
Sure.
And we were so fortunate to work with Luca Tarantini and Jared Rabb, the directors of animation, and their team. Um, uh, and what they brought to this, the emotion, at times you could be very distant from Jackie, at times you could be really intimate with Jackie, and they brought it to life almost in a gonzo sort of way. I hope and I feel of like this was more real than the real thing because of what we were able to do. And then, as I said earlier, we could literally look at the musical archive footage that I've loved all my life and say, could you make this look like Otis Redding? And then they do,
Exactly.
um, and so and I cannot stress enough this was Michaela Walker played young Jackie and Sandra Caldwell played older Jackie, two both incredible trans performers. And what you're asking them to do is basically lip sync, which sort of feels like maybe not that hard a thing to do, but it's like writing a short story rather than a novel, and the
Right.
talent that these two women brought was just extraordinary, like as performers, but inhabiting Jackie and having to match Jackie's voice and intelligence and wit and joy. It was such a tall order, and they did it magnificently. And then they're also in the film as themselves,
Mhm.
which was, I would have wanted to talk to those two women about Jackie, just as their experience as trans women. Michaela being this young trans woman, and Sandra following a very similar path to Jackie, and being as closer in age to Jackie. They would have been wonderful people to talk to and speak of their experience and their perspective anyway. But they were inhabiting Jackie. They were going through the archive with us, reading
Mhm.
her autobiography. And so it felt everybody in this film had an incredibly strong connection to Jackie. And the fact that they were the humans behind the rotoscope was just incredible. But yeah, Luca and Jared, the animators, their work, no matter what technology has come, animation, rotoscope has been around since the 30s,
Yeah.
and no matter what technology can help with some of the grunt work, which it does, at the end of the day, these are human beings painting over these frames, and the work they did is just extraordinary. It was a dream come true.
Yeah, as somebody who's seen a lot of rotoscoping over the years, I was particularly impressed by the rotoscoping within this film. Um, I do have just a couple last little questions for you. Um, Now, this movie is. not just important for the time in which it's set, but it still is so important now. Like, why do you think the story is as important now, if not more important than when, it was starting uh, to unfurl in real life? And why is it important to tell these really great LGBTQ stories,
Yeah.
and not yeah, again, these intersectional stories as well?
That's when I mean, this has been 8 years of my life, and when I first, I guess, connected with Jackie, starting from there, it felt like an incredibly important, timely story to tell. And every year, up until right now, that's gotten, for no good reason, for terrible reasons, has gotten more and more important to tell this story and to tell it now. And working with Luca Rosenberg Lee, one of the things he said coming in was, um, I'll do this, but basically, we can't. There was a lot of pressure to always lead with her transness. And Luca, a very, very talented, smart black trans person, was like, we need to lead with her talent, with her joy, with what she did as a trans woman, you know? And so, I think it is incredibly important to show that trans people have been here always, and it makes it feel like some of the news, some of the takes on social media makes it seem like this is a new phenomenon or whatever. So
Yeah,
I think,
no, it's been happening since humans could put on clothes.
yeah,
Before that, even like trans people have always been around.
yeah, and it's through the prism of Jackie, it's like because her mantra, her motto, live and let live. Like this is just us, and I just want to be me. And it's kind of quite simple, and then it gets so complicated. I don't know why this is important to me to say this now, but Jackie, who experienced a lot of hate and a lot of evil, and from Jim Crow to personal things, and she was adamant that she always said that evil isn't born out of evil, it's born out of people being afraid. And these, people are afraid to be themselves, and so they take it out on me. And I think that's something that we can all um, try to think on a bit right now more than ever. But for Luca and I, the idea of, there's a lot of films about trans people that are necessarily you know, hard and sad and Jackie had all that and I hope we didn't gloss over any of it. But at the same time, Jackie's joy and Jackie just wanted to do what she was put on the earth to do. And there's so much joy in her incredible talent. Um, like to show that as this is what a trans person is and you know so that felt to say right now, can we have this conversation um, and have it be led by a woman who is powerful, doesn't have any resentment necessarily, has understanding. If anything, she looked down on the people. She felt sorry for the people that were cruel to her um, because they were scared. But to have somebody taking us through this story, a trans person who's filled with joy and wit and compassion and it just seems like a to us a wonderful example. And I think Jackie, when she was playing in Toronto, I think she helped a lot of queer people. I think she just helped a lot of people from all walks of life who saw her simply as somebody who was being true to themselves and on stage and had the courage to do that. And so whatever they were, wherever they were coming from, if it was an abusive relationship, if it was, I'm somebody that was scared, looked up at her, and people would come up to after shows, people from all walks of life, and be like, "Can you help me with this?" And she would. But her biggest thing was she just leads by example, and this is what you can do. And so it felt like what an example.
Absolutely. Uh, again, this is such a powerful documentary. I hope everybody who sees this interview will come out to Desperado and see this movie because this movie should be seen by just as many eyes as possible. I was again extremely impressed by it. What are your advice? What's your advice to some people who are like looking at to break into the film business? Um, yeah,
I do think, you know, what this started with in some ways in terms of the making of the film was um, me talking to Jackie Shane, and that didn't cost anything. That was picking up a phone. That was pick up a tape recorder, and I these stories. I'm a little obsessed with this right now, but like talk to our elders, talk to our friends, talk to our parents to get these stories. Just simply have these conversations, and I mean, I am. This is a very, very difficult film to make, to finance, to do everything. And I guess my advice is I just loved Jackie's music. I loved who she was. I loved so much about her. And if you're gonna do some whatever you do, make sure you love it because it's gonna take you a long time to do it. And it's a terrible business model. And so my passion for telling the story was born out of my love of the subject matter, and you know, I will have Jackie in my life for the rest of my life, and so no matter the time and the everything, like what a wonderful thing to do. So that to me, any film, television show, it takes so much work and so much heartache and all of that. So I just don't understand. Like, you got to pick the topics that you love, you know.
I mean that's some of the best filmmaking that comes out, or or the projects that they're called passion projects for a reason. They're things you're very passionate about that you care about so much. And I think that really comes through in this film. I am just so impressed by it. I guess my last question for you is what's next? You know, you have another project in mind? Anything that you can talk about? Like I don't know if
Yeah,
you're trying to keep something under your beanie,
yeah.
but
Well, as I said, I discovered rotoscope or modern rotoscope about 20 years ago, and um, prior to Jackie had been developing something wherein working with other archive audio of and bringing archive audio to life using rotoscope animation.
oh, very cool.
And so I'm going a little further back in history to do that. And then, believe it or not, I am working on a documentary about Hamlet and actors who play Hamlet and the toll it takes, and then of course
That's cool.
why this play has been around for 430 whatever years, and why it still sustains. And but the through line for me is like these connections to that what is it about art and certain pieces of art that connect with us, and so exploring that through that, but like just bringing it back to Jackie Shane really quickly, like I've heard other people, great artists, do versions of Any Other Way that are whatever. And why is Jackie's version? Why does it connect with me? Why does it connect with Luca? Why does it connect with people all over the world from all ages? Like what are those connections? And then of course, like Jackie and Guy Terrifico, what is the toll it takes and to do this art and to put yourself out there physically, mentally, spiritually. So I've been having a really fun time talking to a bunch of people who've played Hamlet and hearing their stories. And sometimes it's hard to get people to talk in documentaries and agree to talk. And with Hamlet, the joke has been like it's not getting them to start talking, it's getting them to shut up. So it's
Sure. Yeah.
so yeah. But I think it will always be somewhere in that world of trying to figure out how we connect with each other as human beings, and so yeah.
I appreciate this so much. This was
Yeah.
just a real pleasure to talk to you. It was a real pleasure to watch the movie. Like I said, I really do hope people come out to Desperado and will and
Yes.
see this documentary. And if you don't get a chance to see it at Desperado, we'll just go out and see any other way the Jackie Shane story. Just because I mean, it's
It's
so
so
good.
good. It
It
is so
really is.
good.
It's such a
Absolutely.
great
Absolutely.
story.
Well, thank you, and this means a lot. And as you'll find out in the film, Jackie was excited. She wanted to do the documentary and do a feature film, and then she wanted to do a comeback tour, and
Mhm.
and she passed away, and so I can't tell you what it means to all of us, and I hope to Jackie that she's been given stages at Desperado and around the world for her story and her music, to be seen and heard. So thank you very much for shining the spotlight and for taking this time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, Michael, thank you so much for being here. This is great as an audience member. It's so great to hear filmmakers tell us what's behind the process of getting these films on the screen. So this is fantastic. So
My pleasure.
yeah,
Thanks for
yeah.
making it happen.
Yeah, and also I just want to say thanks for Paradise Valley Community College for supporting us for 16 years. It's very cool. And Britt, you're such a great film professor there,
Thank
and
you. I
thanks
appreciate
for
it.
being part of this. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Any interviews you need, I'm happy to work with it because I love talking about film,
absolutely,
especially with really talented filmmakers
definitely.
like you, Michael.
So, all right, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Have a
Thank
quick
you.
side.